Right, hold on to your hats, get ready, we could all get offended. I'm not sure what we do after that. There's been lots of coverage over the last few weeks about cancel culture. Roald Dahl books being edited. Katie Hopkins' stand-up shows cancelled now in Weymouth, Bournemouth and Southampton for later on this year. Here's Bournemouth University lecturer Darren Lilliker.
It's one of those difficult areas, isn't it, really, where there's things that I guess most people agree that should be not cancelled but not out in public, and then it depends on the opinion, I suppose. Should people have extreme misogynistic or racist opinions, and what do we do about that? Should they be expressed? Well, it depends on the results of that. If somebody, for example, is it Andrew Tate? Does he encourage other men who agree with him to then go out and commit acts of violence against women? Those kinds of issues, I think, are problematic. Whereas, one of Katie Hopkins' lines about clapping at the sky, it doesn't particularly offend me personally, and that's her view, and fine. I don't see there's a huge problem with things like that. She likes to be controversial. I think that's where that grey area is, that we have to understand that certain things do incite others or could encourage others to be more vocal about their opinions, but also perhaps act on those opinions, and that's where the problems can lie.
Katie Hopkins joins me this morning. Katie, I'm so old, I remember you on The Apprentice.
Love your heart. I remember me. I had terrible, terrible blue eyeshadow, which I absolutely regret.
Yes, although we were seeing in the news today that looking back and being nostalgic is good for the mind. Were you told why your shows were cancelled? Did they get in touch with you individually, or did you just get a generic email? What happened?
No, quite often I find out, somewhat in the press later, because, ultimately these venues booked me off the back of a massive successful show in Blackpool that was glorious, and I'll be back there this year. And then usually due to pressure from one individual who actually has been reported to the police for stalking. But they just fold because people are so scared of the mob. And it's such a pity because this stand-up show is just a glorious way to do exactly what you said at the top of the hour, which is bring people together and get them to laugh and to feel better. It's why it's called Live, Laugh, Love. It actually does what it says on the can, and most of it is just laughing at me.
You're known for being controversial in your writing and your TV appearances. I'm wondering whether within that sector that you work, whether you go, well, as much as it's my right to say what I think, it's the venue's right to cancel, as irritating as that might be to you.
Yes, I think it's absolutely a venue's right to cancel, but what I see is that the venue didn't want to. These venues sold out of their tickets. If I look at the dates I've got coming up, Bristol, Bournemouth, Somerset sold out. Stamford just sold out. Even the people that were forced to cancel had to let people who'd bought their tickets know that the show was being cancelled, because people are fearful of this cancel culture. But what I'm trying to do, what my family on the road is trying to do, and what I'm so grateful to people for, is selling out these venues, because these venues are now holding firm. So we just added Sittingbourne, we just added London, Blackpool will be glorious. And I believe between you, me, and the people who are buying a ticket, we are going to turn this cancel culture oil tanker. You heard how waffly that guy was at the start. Well, most people agree. He doesn't speak for most people, and nor do I. I just know that people have had some of the worst times of their lives in the last 3 years. And if anybody follows my Instagram or my YouTube, they'll see that I've spent 3 years trying to make people feel better. And that's what this show does. And I just would love it if people would come along and support. And also, breaking news, big idea. If you don't want to hear Katie Hopkins, don't buy a ticket. How about that for an old school approach?
Is it a case that we have the line between breaking the law and having an opinion that might be offensive has got very wide? So there's a fear of that line. We know that if you get offended, if I get offended, nothing happens. I wake up in the morning and I'm as okay,
Yes.
I'm fine, I
Yes.
can brush my teeth. I understand how offence works, So what's happened with cancel culture and our ability to offend? How have we got in a position like we're in?
Absolutely. Well, many people who want to be offended like to own the idea of offence. And every day they increase the number of things that they might be offended by. And as I know at a very personal level, when facts become hate speech, biological facts, for example, become hate speech, then truth becomes an arrestable offence. And what it does when people like me have everything taken from them, it schools other people to keep quiet, to keep their heads down, to not say something wrong. And that's what these venues are fearful from, that pulled. But if I may, my door is always open. If these venues will put the show back on, I'll be there in a heartbeat. The people that bought the tickets before, they'll be back. And this huge network that I'm so happy to be part of, that's about coming together, remembering old times. That's the nostalgia you're talking about, is people remember a time when they were given more freedoms. Do you remember? You might not remember, you might be a baby, but do you remember CFAX? Do you remember going on to CFAX and booking a package holiday? You didn't know where you were going, you just booked it from CFAX. Those are the freedoms that were given to us once before. And that's really what this is about. And I prefer not to speak for my own shows. You know, I'd rather quote someone who'd seen them, which is Blackpool, and they say it's a funny show, it's not a political thing, and Katie pokes more fun at herself than anyone else, as anyone who has seen her shows will know. And if I may just briefly trouble your listeners, if they want to come online and see what we're doing, my website is katiesarms.com. Arms as in guns, arms, yeah.
I got it. I know the guns.
Have you got guns?
I get it, Katie.
Do you have guns?
Yeah.
Are you too young to remember
actually,
CFAX?
Seriously, I remember CFAX.
Yes.
I do a joke at work, which is face for radio, voice for CFAX. And none of the young people get it. They just look at it and go, what's he talking about? Is he the caretaker here? Okay, now, Katie, this slightly pains me to do it, because I prefer, really, to sort of jockey with these things with a sense of balance. But these are the ones that have just come in, so I'm going to
do it.
To you.
Darling, do it.
Hi, Alan. You got Katie Hopkins on. Do you think we're becoming a controlling nation? We have a choice. If we don't like comedians, we don't like speakers, we can turn the telly off. We can close the book. We can close the newspaper. Katie Hopkins, not my cup of tea. Brace yourself, Katie. No tears. But that isn't the point. We should have the freedom to decide whether we want to hear her views or not. You're not forced to go there to get involved in a debate. If the public don't want to hear Hopkins, then don't buy her tickets, says Tony.
Thank you,
Katie
Tony.
Hopkins was cancelled because she speaks her mind. What's happening? That's what's coming in at the moment, Katie. So I feel a little bit like there's a sort of sense of grown-upness.
It's just...
I don't have to like your work.
No.
But I can accept the fact that, you write a book, I haven't got to read it.
Exactly. And you know what? I just want to say thank you to everybody that's getting involved with your show, that's listening in, because this is the first time I've been allowed to speak live on a BBC show in 5 years. This is the first time I've been allowed on radio in the UK, my home country, a country that I signed up to fight for. I went through the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst. I've been banned from every platform for 5 years. This is the first show. You and Sophie and others have given me this opportunity. And that's why I know we're turning the oil tanker. And I so respect those listeners who are writing and saying, I hate that woman. I hate that woman, but she should be given the right to do her stand-up show, and people can go if they want to, because I never asked people to agree with me. I always said, here's my view, what's yours? Tell me yours. And unfortunately, we've reached a point where being liked or hated has been kind of merged with being agreed with or not. You can disagree with someone and still not hate them. But the joy of this show is if you hate me, you should come, because I stand there and pretty much fess up to every disastrous moment of my terribly obnoxious life. But thank you to those listeners for saying such kind things. I really respect that. And I respect that you don't agree with me, and I can understand why.
Do you think, Katie, and I please don't make me regret the last question, right? Because I think, we're connecting. Do you think because you have had this journey in the last 5 years that you are more conscious of your behaviour. I've watched other commentators who have got involved in the same way that you have, and most of them have said that I'm now much more thoughtful before I speak. Some even write it down before they speak. Are you in that class as well, that group as well? Because you're thinking, oh, here's my first interview for 5 years on the BBC. Just think a little bit more than perhaps you would have in the beginning. Are you feeling tempered?
Bless your soul. And I respect all of those who are trying to operate within that, as you speak to, the Overton window, where you're only allowed to say certain things and you write them down and you make sure you don't annoy your employer. I'm not in that. I still speak my truth. I don't apologise for anything I ever said. And also, Sophie, your darling producer, said to me was, Katie, please don't swear. And I don't really swear as a rule. But you know what? No, I still speak my entire mind. Speaking out against lockdowns in Australia is the reason I was deported and banned from that country for 3 years. So no, I'm not more tempered. But let me just be straight with you, given that you're asking me an open and honest question, which I super appreciate, is that I see how in the last 3 years plus, people have been, it's been so dark and hard, and I want people to feel better. And that's what my job is now, is making people feel better on the road.
Katie, we lost you for a moment there, but we got the end of that sentence. Thank you for your time this morning, Katie Hopkins. You may have a completely different take on having Katie Hopkins on the radio. You are entitled to your opinion. WhatsApp is a good way of doing it. 08000 321 333. Start your message with the word Solent, or you can call me on the free phone 0800808